Good morning. This is of chapter 3, soil erosion and conservation. And topic which we are going to discuss now is how is soil formed? Here, how is soil formed? There is a process which is called weathering. Weathering means breaking down of rocks into small pieces. What does it mean? Breaking down of rocks into small pieces. Is that process happening by nature, or we human beings are doing that? Definitely we are not doing that. The weathering process is done by nature only. There are three different kinds in that weathering: physical, biological and chemical. So our earth is made up of rocks and minerals that we have discussed in our previous chapter 2. This rocks is basically in irregular shapes, and it has lot of minerals in it. Here I have drawn an illustration that a rock is broken down into small pieces. That small pieces becomes grinds after a long time. That grinds is the soil. Fine. Now we are going to see a list of things that helps weathering. Here, plants, rain, flowing water, wind and weather changes. First, plants. You can ask me how plants help in this weathering, because basically plants, trees are statical thing, which means they are static. They cannot move from one place to another. But how they are helping to this process of weathering? Here, if a plant is there grown in a place, the roots which they are having will be below the earth surface, right? Okay, this is the place where plant grow. Okay, after the few days, due to the weather and temperature changes, the place where the plant grown has been separated. Separated in the sense the nearby area are eroded by the rainfall, by the wind, by the weather changes. Okay, so this place were segregated. After that, the soils that plant were grown become as rock. But whatever nutrients that received from it is not stopping, which means it received all kind of nutrients. After a few days, that plant will be grown. Finally, what happened? This is third level. Finally, what happened? The grown up of the plant having the possibility of broken down this rocks into pieces, which means by like this, which means final stage. The same rock had been broken down into two or three pieces. Maybe the plant got damaged, or it will be still surviving wherever the nutrients is present in the rocks, which it can be easily attained. From wherever it can attain the nutrients, it can be still surviving in that rocks. For example, in these rocks. But the rocks are broken. After this broken down of rocks, you know what happened? These rocks is becoming tiny particles, and that is how this soil is forming. So this is how plants plays its role to the weathering process. Okay, next, rain. How rain helps to weathering process? As I told you, rock is there, it's a huge rock. This is how the raining process is being done. The pouring of raining water into that rocks that make some holes. For example, you know that the roads which we are having in our streets has been damaged by the rainfall. So that what happened, we can find a stagnating of water around our streets, right? So likewise here also the same process will be done. So after pouring of water for the long time, as I told you, it is also not happening within a week or within a month. It will be required at least a year. So after that what happened, the pores in which present in the rocks, it becomes weaker and it will be broken down, so that it will be having some cracks at the beginning. After that it will be broken down totally. So like how this rain also help to this weathering process. Next, flowing of water. Flowing of water, I can tell you an example that if you go to sea, we can find many rocks, but whatever rocks you are seeing nowadays, it is not actually its size. In the beginning it was huge, it was like more than 20 to even 100 feet it was there, but after the erosion of the water, that rocks is being eroded and the soil which is present in the rocks become grinds and it will be moved to the shore areas. So that is how this flowing of water also help to this weathering process. Fine. Next, wind. This wind is totally different, like plants that broken down the rocks and change the and help the soil to get forming. But this wind like the hurricane, even normal wind also, that taken the soils from one place to another, that can broken the rocks and that can move the rocks from one place to another. In the traveling itself, in moving of the rock itself, that rocks become eroded and that eroded particles become tiny. That tiny particles can be form soil. So wind, hurricane, likewise anything. Next, weather changes. Weather changes in the sense not only heat due to the cool temperature. For example, a rock is there, two rocks are there. Consider it is a rock. In the center area, water is residing. Here, water is there. Okay. In the night time, the temperature is very low, which means very low, that can make the water to get freezes. That much amount of the temperature will be available in between these rocks, so that water get freezes. What happens once the water get freezes, there will be lot of chances that the frozen water, which means the water that become an ice, can easily broken down the rocks into two pieces. So this is the first it was, and after that, due to the temperature changes, due to the frozen water, that rocks are broken. So by these things, weathering process is being done nature. Okay, after this there are some other things that help for this weathering process. Those are moving of water in rivers carries rocks along, which means the water which is taking the soils and rocks, that will be flowing in the rivers. As I told you, which belong to flowing water. Next, pebbles forms if rocks knocks against each other. While flowing of water, while moving of rocks from one place to another place, what happened? These rocks are knocking between each other, that forming pebbles. Next, pebbles broken down into tiny grains of sands over a time. As I told you, these pebbles broken down and that broken down tiny particles become sands after over a time. Next, wind plays a vital role in soil formation. As I told you, here this wind will take the broken down pieces and it will be make a gathering around any other place, and in that place this tiny particles becoming sand, and that is how soil is formed. Okay, fine. I hope this concept is clear. If you having any doubts, just post your doubts in Google Classroom. Thank you.